temperature's cool overnight. Anytime you hear one chirping loud, go find out who's making noise and make sure they're not in distress. Obviously, that one's really not in distress. It just was with a group of birds and they all took off this way. So now it's like calling out to its buddies. It's pretty cool that the chickens, they recognize easily, they say, at least 100 faces. And that can include animals and people. So in this group of 433, we can assume that they are familiar with at least 100 of their peers in their flock or their counterparts. And definitely they're familiar with our faces, my household. There's 5 of us. We all help with the chickens. We all share the burden, and that's the biggest blessing, because this is something that is a lot of work, raising any amount of these meat birds. Once you get a system, it's not awful to do, and you can keep up with it, and you can kind of predict what needs done. But the more birds you have, the more labor intensive it gets, just with the keeping up with how much feed they want and how much water they need, and keeping the temperature as perfect as you can for them. And so if you can kind of divide that work amongst a handful of people or several people, it really does lighten the load. So really a blessing that my household of 5 is willing to work on this and all together. And that, I think that kind of contributes to that little nickname, that moniker that our family kind of gets as the Chicken Mafia of Southeast Ohio. For one thing, that we're crazy enough to try to be just, a regular old household and try to raise 1,600 birds in a year's time, and try to raise 400 at a single time, and think that we can hopefully make the customer connections and client connections to keep that meat sold in a rapid, prompt fashion that we produce from the chickens. So kind of probably a little bit out on the crazy spectrum for doing that, but also just that Mafia, Chicken Mafia nickname, it's kind of that moniker that, it's recognized that this is a family project for us. And I really wouldn't want to do this by myself with no help. I really don't know that I could. So it really, as I said, we share that burden of the work, and helping each other out with our different schedules, but making sure that the flocks always have what they need. So we help each other share that burden, and that is a tremendous blessing that we can do that for each other. And we are really proud to be producing wholesome and delicious food. Less than 2% of the American population is involved in farming for food production. And that includes the crops that are produced to feed livestock for food production. So 100% of us like to eat. So it's really pretty cool to be part of the 1% that produces food. And we appreciate the responsibility of that, and we want to do the best job that we can. So yeah, I got off on that little tangent there, but anyway, but we want to keep the birds thriving and keep the resources to them and in front of them that they need. But that's why we're working toward integrating the larger feeders and waters into their pen. Ideally, that's all we would end up with in the pen by, like, say, 2 weeks of age. We would be totally done with the baby bird feeders and the baby bird waters. But we're going to have the big feeders and waters in here that we own and that we have in our possession. And then if it's not enough capacity, we'll continue to supplement with these options, the smaller options, or if we have to come up with some kind of homemade options, some kind of fabricated at home options for feeders and waters, we've been known to do that. So we'll keep you posted on that. But they have had 200 pounds of feed distributed to them. They will eat 4,000 pounds. Their production length as a flock is going to end up being 41 days. They were hatched June 12th, 2024. Go to processing June 22nd, 2024. That's another area of resources that is a big expense. We have enough of these live poultry transport crates to probably haul about half the flock to the processor when we get out to the end of production. So rather than buy more crates, it would probably take us close to $1,300 to buy the additional crates that we would need to hold the entire flock when we go to the processor. So most likely, rather than spend that, we're going to opt for something that's more labor intensive and be able to utilize a different option. So many times at processors, they have crates frequently, and they'll either let you use them complimentary on their property, or they might, for a rental fee, let you even take them to your property to use when you're loading your birds to take their processor. But in our case, we can actually, we're going to double check and verify, but we've done this previously, we can actually use crates at our processors. So we would haul our birds that we can't crate loose in a trailer, like a livestock trailer, to the processor, and when we get to the processor, they would share crates with us, and we would load them into those crates right there at the processor. So half of our birds will load in the crates that we own, and then the other half, that's probably what we'll do. But I'm just grateful we have that option. It'll save us a big expense, even though it'll cost us a little more labor intensity at the time. So anyway, you know, it's a balancing act, but we got to make sure they have the necessities, and then we prioritize having our processing done at a professional USDA inspected processor. So last thing I want to tell you here about this flock at 8 days old is their comfort level and ambient temperature. So this ambient temperature thing, if you're going to raise Cornish rock cross meat chickens, this is a huge piece of the puzzle of success with your meat birds, okay? They are really sensitive to ambient temperature in terms of, at every age and stage, they basically have an ambient temperature they want to be. And the closer we can keep their environment to that ambient temperature that they want, the better the flock's going to do. So at this age, 8 days old, at this age, 8 days old, they want it to be about 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and our outdoor temperature is 87 degrees Fahrenheit. So today is just about a perfect match for our birds with the ambient temperature. And our building basically matches the outdoor ambient temperature. So when it's a perfect match, we greatly appreciate that, because it means we don't have to have all these heat lamps on. They're all turned off. We didn't even have to turn them on overnight. So really helps us keep utility expense down when we don't have to have heat lamps. We are running one small fan, and we have the big doorways open, and that's helping keep the airflow and cross ventilation really satisfactory in here, and keep good air quality in here for them. So the birds are doing great. So if we are able to luck out and have the blessing of having the ambient temperature and our weather kind of match up with the age and stages of our birds, that's really going to smooth things out for us in this production term. But basically, with your meat birds, Cornish rock cross meat chickens, they want to be 90 degrees Fahrenheit at hatch, and then they want it to be about 5 degrees cooler each week as they progress out to about 4 weeks. They want it to be about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and then their production length is only 5 or 6 weeks, and that last bit, they want it to be about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Really no warmer than 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and no cooler than about 68 or 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can just kind of count that through. Day one, 90 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature. The end of the first week, they're ready for about 85 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature. When they're 2 weeks old, they're ready for about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. When they're 3 weeks old, they're ready for about 75. And then at 4 weeks old, they're ready for about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's where they want to be to the end of production. And so if you've got temperatures warmer than what they want at any given stage, we want to do whatever it takes to make some adjustments and make some cool places for them in their living space. If you've got temperatures colder than the ambient temperature that they really want to be, then we need to do whatever we can to target some warmth into their floor space and give them comfortable areas to rest in, eat in, and drink water in. So that's the name of the game with the meat birds. Get the temperature where they want it, try to keep it there as well as we can, and provide all the feed they need, all the water they need. And we like to give them a little bit of exercise by just asking them to move around the pen. Right now they're in a resting phase, so we're not going to disturb that. But that's basically the formula for raising meat birds.